There was one day when I started to question myself. I started asking myself the very deep and dark question that I have been trying to avoid and ignore for the longest time, which is, have I made the right career choice? All these struggles. And then they asked me, if I quit, will I make it? How do I know when to quit? Should I quit? How do I know if I'm making the right decision? So like I'm born, I go to school, I study, go to university, and I work, and then retire, married, and then die. You know, that's the basic timeline of how people teach us how to live. Okay, so first of all, hi everyone. My name is Christal. I'm a trainer, coach, speaker, medical doctor, and also author of my upcoming book, Should I Quit? 5 Steps to Discover Work You Are Meant to Do and Live Your Purpose. And I want to say thank you to Kanyin Studios and also to Phoebe for having me here today in this interview. So to answer that question, I would like to just step a few steps back and give a little bit of context. So in 2019, I graduated from medical school in University of Miami to become a doctor. And becoming a doctor has always been something that I've dreamt of becoming. It has always been my childhood dream. You know, how and why that happened, I have no idea. I have no clue how that happened. But maybe it's because of the glitz and glamour of how doctors are being portrayed in TV shows, in the movies that I watch. Or maybe it's because it's something that has been drummed into my mind subconsciously, you know, like because I did well in school, in my studies. So usually the common pathways that people usually recommend are either you be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or else you're a family failure, right? That's the running joke, especially in Asian stereotypes. And so I chose to become a doctor, and for my entire childhood, I worked my whole life towards that dream. So in April 2021, when I finally got offered to work as a doctor in Hospital Serdang, in a local government hospital, I was very excited. I was very happy because this was what I've been working my whole life towards. And my parents were extremely proud of me, and that was what a daughter could ever ask for. You know, I just wanted to make my family proud and happy. And when I started working, the first few weeks were a breeze for me. I was very determined to learn as much as I can, try to adapt as much as I can in a very short amount of time, and to be of service not only to my patients but also to my colleagues. So the first few weeks, it was a breeze. I really enjoyed the work. But unfortunately, after just 8 months going in through my career, I started to experience this deep existential crisis. I experienced a severe burnout, extreme exhaustion. I've been working 16 hours a day, 6 days straight without any rest. I was sleep deprived. I was working in a working environment that was very unconducive, unsupportive. I have to carry a lot of heavy workload, and all the people around me were also feeling the same thing, even though maybe they weren't admitting it. There was one day when I started to question myself. I started asking myself the very deep and dark question that I have been trying to avoid and ignore for the longest time, which is, have I made the right career choice? If I choose to quit, will I make it or will I fail? What are other people going to think about me? Because I've invested so much of my time, energy, money, my entire life for this moment to become a doctor, but to realize that I've actually made the wrong career choice is very frightening to me. You know, 5 years of medical school and to quit at the end, it's no small thing. It's a really big deal for me. And when I told my parents the idea, they were very disappointed. They were very sad. And it was one of the toughest things that I have to deal with, you know. But after 4 long months of going back and forth, contemplating whether I should quit or not, I went into a very deep introspection with myself, reflecting upon what do I really want out of my life. And after this one tragic incident in the hospital, it finally allowed me to step back, reassess my own life. And that was when I decided to hand in my 1-month resignation notice. And then 1 month later, on the 15th of December 2021, that was when I left my medical career, resigned from being a doctor, and just walked out of the hospital door and and just left medicine for good. And so a lot of people come up to me with the same struggle. They share with me about the pain that they have to go through, especially as junior doctors going through housemanship. They share about all the suffering, all these struggles, and then they ask me, if I quit, will I make it? How do I know when to quit? Should I quit? How do I know if I'm making the right decision? And I totally understand their sentiment because I've been there as well. I've been in their shoes. And so I asked them these 3 questions, and I feel like these 3 questions will be very helpful if you are also in the same boat and if you're also contemplating on whether to quit. So these 3 questions are, first one is, what are the obstacles that are holding you back and why? And then second is, if I continue to go down this current path that I'm on right now, will I like what I see? And the third last question is, will my future self regret for not having taken the leap? So your answers to these 3 questions, even though it sounds simple, but these are very deep, honest, brutal questions that you can ask yourself. And so your answers to these 3 questions will determine your actions or the inactions that you will take. So you get to decide what to do.
I see, but so goes back to because 8 months of housemanship.
Yes.
I mean, like, when you have this idea of quitting your job, your career, so you only keep it to yourself. Did you share it with anyone? Did you ask for anyone's opinion? And if you did you ever hear someone saying that, is it too soon that you're giving up? I mean, 8 months only. You were just in the field for 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, so can you share a bit of that? Did you ask for anyone's opinion?
Yeah. So the first time when the idea popped up in my mind, I kept it mostly to myself because I know the kinds of repercussions that I will face if I decide to speak up about it or decide to share about it. Because being a doctor, I feel like when you become a doctor, people put you on a pedestal. You know, we see this career as something that is luxurious, something that is lucrative, and if you leave that career, people will tell you that you've wasted 5 years of your studies. And so most of the time I kept it to myself, but there was one point when I was really, really struggling, whether I was very close to quitting. And so I also needed other people's opinion, and the closest people that I could reach out to was my parents.
Okay.
But my parents at that time, they have their own opinions about how to lead life, you know. And I've been raised in that kind of culture where I've been given a list of prescriptions about how to live life, right? So like I'm born, I go to school, I study, go to university, and I work, and then retire, married, and then die. You know, that's the basic timeline of how people teach us how to live. Yeah, and so my parents were of the same viewpoint as well. So when I told them that idea, like of course they were very disappointed because first is I'm their only daughter, and then I was one of the first few in my family to become a doctor. So they were very reluctant about the idea. But I feel like as I get older, my parents started to become more understanding because I realized that most of the time the people that we love try to stop us, try to hold us back from what we want to do, not because they think it's a bad idea. Most of the time it's because they just don't understand it. Because when I'm about to quit my career, I'm actually entering into a territory that is unfamiliar to them, you know? And their intentions are actually pure because they love us, they want to protect us, want to prevent us from harm. Because if we quit our career, then how are we going to survive? How are we going to pay the bills? How are we going to support ourselves financially? So once I explain to them and actually bring them into my world, share with them my dreams, paint for them a picture about how I envision my life to be, they started to become more understanding, more accepting. And now my parents are my biggest allies and my biggest supporters in whatever I do. And I'm so very grateful for them. So coming back to your question, other than my parents, I did share with some of my close friends, but they also had the same viewpoint, you know, because they didn't understand what I was about to do, because most of them are not from medical field. And so they put me on a pedestal. They think, wow, you're a doctor, and then now you're gonna quit, and you're gonna leave everything that you've built behind. So how are you going to make it? They also have their own fears. And most of the time I had to deal it on my own. And I really believe that most of the transformative or healing processes that you will have to go through, most of them you have to do it on your own in isolation. And you have to really be honest, brutally honest with yourself about what do you actually want out of life. Other people can have their own opinions, their own suggestions about what you can do, but at the end of the day, you need to have your own say. And you need to pick an answer that truly resonates with your heart. And how do you know that? It takes a lot of deep reflection and introspection and time alone. Yeah.
But it's so much different from my generation. It's like we are like maybe 10 years gap, 20 years gap. So my generation is like we are taught to be, anything happen, we have to soldier on. You just suck it up, and then you have to at least make it for a few years in your first job as the strawberry generation. Because of this, you will listen to what your hearts want. So you can make the decision to quickly say no for this, because you know it's not your path, it's not your way. So that then they're being labeled as the strawberry generation. They cannot take stress lah, they break too easily lah, they just want to pursue something easy, relax. Where got such things? Yeah. So if you want to say something to challenge this statement, so
Yeah.
what say you? What do you have to say about?
Yeah. Now, first of all, I think one of the problem is we try to normalize work with pain and suffering, you know. We say like work is meant to be like this, work is meant to be full of pain, full of suffering, and you just need to suck it up, soldier on, you know. This is the common narrative that we hear, right? Work is supposed to be this way, and so we normalize it, and when we normalize things, we teach it to other people. And also when we normalize things, it becomes a stereotypical belief, and people automatically think it's true, but actually it's not, you know, if you think it in a different way. And coming back to your question, you know, whether this generation is known as the strawberry generation, like are they spoiled, are they too pampered, you know? Maybe there is some truth to that, but also I think that we shouldn't put our entire blame towards this generation without first understanding them. Because this generation, they are already living in a different era. They're living in a different context. You know, I like to connect this with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I don't know if any one of you heard it before. So the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is this pyramid. So in this pyramid, there's a few steps or there's a few layers, you know. And so human beings, we start from the bottom layer, and then once we achieve the bottom layer, we will move our way up towards the top layers, right? So the most bottom layer is our basic needs. For example, our needs for food, shelter, sleep, water, and so on. So when we are able to fulfill our basic needs at the bottom of this pyramid, then only then we can move up to the top layers, you know, from one step to the next step to the next step. And I think that our generation now, the younger generations today, they live in a world where most of their basic needs are already met. They already have enough food, enough financial security, enough shelter. And because of that, because they have already fulfilled that, they can now move up to the next ladder to fulfill the next ladder, which is safety, and then love and belonging, and then self-esteem. So once they achieve all of these bottom layers, only then they can fulfill the topmost layer, which is self-actualization and also self-transcendence. So what this means is they are allowed, or they are given the chance to find work that is meaningful and purposeful, because they don't have to worry about all these basic survival needs anymore, you know, because it's already taken care of. So now they have the mental capacity to find work that can actually fulfill them, that is purposeful, that is meaningful. And us in the older generation, we need to understand this, you know, because we're living in a very abundant world right now, where most of our basic needs are being taken care of. And as a generation that is older, what we can do is we need to provide an environment where this generation can actually tap into their gifts, their potentials, and so that in the end, they can maximize their talents and do work that they are meant to do, and that is aligned with who they are, you know, because we have, us as the older generation, I mean, we're not too old, but like a generation older, right? we have the experience, the knowledge, the wisdom, and we can use this to guide the youth, the younger generation, to do work that they are meant to do. Because the younger ones, they don't have the experience or the wisdom yet, to find their way. And as someone who has that wisdom, we can help them out. So instead of blaming them, we need to provide for them a platform or an ecosystem for them to actually do that. So yeah, that's my take on it.
Wow, strangely, because I was thinking my next question was like, it's easy for someone who has something to support them to say, I can quit. But what if for the people like, for people who are like, I have mouth to feed, and that I cannot just simply say I quit, and then you explain that, what, strange,
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
because of the...
yeah, I totally understand this, because most of the people, they come up to me, they say the same thing. They have dreams, they have goals, they want to do so many things, but the things that are holding them back is usually financial security, right? Like, how am I going to pay the bills? Or how am I going to support myself financially? And that's totally valid. So according to the pyramid, you have, before you can actually do something that is meaningful, purposeful to you, you have to fulfill your own basic needs first. Or else you won't even have the mental capacity to think about anything else. Because us as human beings, we want to be able to just survive, we want to survive. So when we can tackle that, only then we can think about something else. I would also recommend that even if you have basic needs or basic survival needs that you have to take care of, you need to always have in the back of your mind an intention that after you settle all of this stuff, the end goal must always be to do work that is meaningful and purposeful to you, something that is aligned to you. You always need to have that at the back of your mind, even in the midst of all your craziness and chaos in trying to just survive here on this planet.
I think about career fulfillment or job fulfillment, like this kind of sense, somehow has even the younger kids nowadays, they have some sort of being influenced by this new insight. Because my nephew's 8 years old, he once told me that he wants to become a Grab driver because it's free and easy. So even they have the differences, and then I said, just Grab driver. And then he said, at first I thought of becoming a pilot, maybe for flying the commercial plane, but then too much responsibility because many people sit on it, ride on it, and then so the same for bus. So I become a Grab driver, I happy. And then I don't know if during my generation, surely his ambition will get like that, become Grab driver, sort But I was like, okay, good, you become your own boss, something like that. So I think it's somehow it's changing the younger kids as well.
Yeah. I mean, values, these are all values, like older generation, maybe they have their own values. Maybe the generations of all parents, their value is hard work. We need to survive. We need to work, find work that is secure so that we are able to support ourselves financially. But maybe our generation now, our value is different as well. Maybe our value is actually freedom, is purpose, meaning, fulfillment. But at the end of the day, it's actually up to us. What do we want out of our own life? Not what other people say, not what someone else's idea of what a good life is, but what do we want for ourselves? And if that makes us happy, fulfilled, and content, then why not?
Okay, and then I have one question also. I mean, like, this is like a very common question, but still it's very hard to answer, I think. So how do you define a job and a career? When, especially as employees, one of the few things that your boss constantly say is that you have to treat this as a career, not just a job. So you have to pour in your tears and sweats all in.
Yes.
Like that. So how do you define a job and a career? Because I used to spend some time in outside of countries, and I work at a glass house. So with all the angmoh, the matsale. So they have a very simple thought. Job is just a job. I come here, I earn my wage, and then I go and enjoy my life. So it's not like I'm coming here to build a career. So how do you define that? I mean, a job or career?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question actually. When we talk about work, we usually think it's either a job or a career. We usually use these words interchangeably, but actually they mean two different things. And I think it's very important for us to distinguish the two different meanings, right? So what is a job? A job basically is something that pays the bill. So if you're currently working in a job that you don't really enjoy, that you have no passion at all, but you do it because it pays the bill, it pays your loans, your debts, then that's a job. If you're an entrepreneur, but you're working in a business that sucks the soul out of you, that you don't even enjoy, but you do it anyway because it pays the bill, that's still a job. So a job applies to if you're either an employee or an entrepreneur. So what is a career? A career, on the other hand, is something that gives you upward mobility. For example, it gives you the ability to hone and master your skills, so that you're able to climb up the career ladder. For example, you're able to get the next promotion or get the next paycheck raise. So examples of careers are, for example, like doctors, lawyers, engineers, accountants, where you can climb up the career ladder, as you become more experienced, more skillful, more competent, then you can upgrade yourself upwards in the career ladder. So that's a career. While both jobs and careers are good in their own way, what I suggest all of us to discover is a calling. So a calling is different than a job or a career. A calling is not, when we hear people say calling, what is a calling? A calling is not some external voice high up in the sky, telling you about what is your life's purpose or proclaiming to you about your life's prophecy. Rather, it's a calling is that internal voice inside of you that pulls you in, that speaks to your soul, that speaks to your heart. And it's something that you're willing to do even for free because it's something that is very meaningful and fulfilling to you. How do we find that calling? One of the ways is, in the book, I introduce to the readers this Japanese concept called ikigai. So ikigai, it means a reason for being or a sense of purpose. And ikigai, it has 4 elements: what you love to do, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. So if you can find the intersection between these 4 elements, then that's a sweet spot. That's where your ikigai lies. But most of us, we don't know what our ikigai is. And one of the reasons why is because ever since we were little, we've been told what to do. What job to take, what course to study in, which university to go to, how much money to make, which company to work for. Everything has been given to us. And we think that that's how life should be. And when we never even give ourselves permission to step back, to reassess and ask ourselves, what do we actually want? Who am I? And what do I want out of life? So self-awareness, reflection, deep introspections, all of these are very important if we want to actually know what our calling is. And I really believe that the universe or our life, it's always trying to give us signals or messages to where our purpose lies. In whatever we do, there's always clue to where our ikigai is. For example, it can be in the form of the tasks or activities that you love doing. Or it can be in the kinds of people that you love to surround yourself with, or the kinds of books that you love to read, or the kinds of TV shows or music or movies that you love to watch, for example. What gives you a sense of flow? What makes you feel alive? What feels very natural to you, feel very comfortable to you? So these are all clues to where your ikigai is. And what we need to do is we need to discern these messages, the signals that we get every day throughout life, and cultivate more self-awareness rather than falling into the trap of social conditioning. Why not we create more self-awareness and find the answer for ourselves?
I don't like the idea that people, they're looking down at you are treating this as your job, not your career. To me, it's like job and career, there's no right or wrong. You can still be doing your job. I mean, even though you don't like it, but you are on your own. I mean, like,
Yes.
you're making it on your own. So it's like, I just don't know why people have the idea that kind of look down of if you're just having just a job. Yeah, so what do you think about that?
I mean, it depends how you define it also, Even if it's a job, I mean, why do you want to work in that job in the first place? Does it make you happy? Or are you being forced to do that job? Or maybe it's just something temporary. Maybe you just want to do it for a while, want to create your own financial safety net before you move on to something that you actually love. So it depends, you know. And I think one of the reasons why we don't pursue what we love is because we listen to too much to what other people have to say. Yeah, there's a lot of background noises, you know,
Yeah.
surrounding us. And if we let that hold us back from what we actually want to do for ourselves, for our life, then we're never gonna go anywhere. Because we cannot please everyone, and it's not our job to please everyone as well, right? If we feel fulfilled, we feel content with what we're doing, then I think that's the only thing that matters. Yeah, and if you love your job and if you enjoy doing it, maybe you have other plans on or other reasons why you want to continue pursuing it, then why not, right?
One last question. I mean, like, it's been how many months since you say goodbye to your medical career?
Almost 1 year.
Almost 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year.
Is there any moment of time that you have a bit slight bit of regret of your decision?
Surprisingly, no. Not at all, actually. Yeah. Because when I decided to resign, I knew it was a make or break decision. Because I'm the kind of person that goes all in or nothing. I'm just the kind, there's no in between with me. It's either I really want to do it or I don't want to do it at all. And I know that if I quit medicine, it's something that I don't want to look back at anymore. You know, and that's why I took a very long time to decide whether I should pull the trigger and resign. But I don't know, one of the biggest guidance for me has always been my heart. And I think for the longest time, we pay so much emphasis on our head, you know, on our intellect. We listen too much to what is going on up here. But actually, most of the wisdom or the answers are already inside here. But because there's always a battle, you know, between the head and the heart. Because the head wants to protect you, but the heart wants to experience. And when there's a conflict between the two, that's where the chaos lies. And so if you ask yourself whether should I quit, should I do this, should I do that, most of the time you actually already know the answers inside. Even though your head may not like how it sounds like, because it's just trying to protect you, you know. It has its own ego, it wants to ensure your own survival. But your heart, it just wants to explore, wants to have fun, wants to experience. So even up until now, I have always relied on my heart and my instincts. And I think we need to start cultivating that, start to pay attention to what our heart has to say, because it's such a valuable resource that we have. Rather than going outside looking for the answers, why not we look inside? Because we already have all the answers that we need.
Do you know how long the time you like struggle to quit from your career?
Yeah, it took me 4 months. Yeah, four long months. Like every day going to work, coming back from work, even during my off days, it's all I could ever think about. Yeah, and I knew that it was a very hard decision. And so every time when I have my off days or when I have break, I try to make time for myself, because most of the answers, it lies in the stillness. You cannot find the answers in all of the noise and the chaos, you know. And so I really have to sit down, reflect, and ask myself, what do I really want? So yeah, 4 long months of just pacing it back and forth, being on the fence whether I should quit or not.
Do you have any like a point like makes you okay, yes, I want to quit?
Yes. Yeah, so in the book I actually shared, because so I've been struggling, you know, whether to quit, right, for 4 months. But I didn't really have the courage to actually pull the trigger and hand in my resignation notice. And I really believe that when something is meant for you, the universe will try to help and give you a sign. And that sign for me, it happened during this one incident in the hospital. I shared it in the book, actually. So something tragic happened, and I was blamed for it because I almost cost a patient's life. And rather than sympathizing with me or being compassionate or being understanding about what I was going through, my colleagues and even my bosses blamed me for it, and I was humiliated in front of many people. So that was one of my turning point. because even many weeks before that, I've been praying, I've been praying to the universe to just give me a sign, tell me what to do. If I am meant to leave my career, then please show it to me. And I feel like you can call it God or universe or whatever, a higher power. I feel like that I feel like the universe gave me the answer in that form of event, that incident. Yeah. So if you want to know more, you can read the book. It's in the introduction. Yeah.
I have one more question, because just now you were saying about the head wants to protect us,
Yes.
but the heart wants to experience. So to build up with this statement, do you think that it's easier for women to make the should I quit decision than boys do?
Yeah.
Because we women, we tend to follow our hearts and then emotion.
Yeah. I think one of the perception that we have is that women are more intuitive, right? We are more in tune with our heart or our feelings, our emotions. But not all emotions have to be entertained as well. There is also merit in thinking intellectually with our head. And so for me, the best way on how you can figure out the best answer is we need to have a balance between the two. Because if we rely too much on the heart, it can be too emotional. And when we're too emotional, we can do things irrationally and we can become reactive and lash out. And that's not always a good situation to be in. But if we think too much with our head, because our head is just trying to protect us, then we'll be too analytical. We will have so many questions, a lot of doubts, and because of that, we won't even start anything, because there's a lot of self-doubt. So I think the answer or the sweet spot here is the balance between the two. Sometimes the heart already has the answer, and then it also needs support from the intellect as well. Yeah, so in terms of women, actually, yes, it's true that women are more intuitive, more in tune with their emotions, and maybe it is easier for us women to make that decision. But men can also tap into that intuitive side of them, because both men and women, we have our own feminine and also masculine energy. Feminine energy is this intuitive side, intuitive feelings, emotion, gut instinct. Masculine energy is more about being ambitious, driven, goal-oriented. So that's why there's yin and yang, right? So there's like two opposing forces, but we need to find the balance in the two. And that's where the sweet spot lies. And this can be applied whether you're a man or a woman. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Christal, for the sharing.
All right.
Great.
Thank you so much,
We look forward to your book.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.